I once preached at a church, and there was a glass of water dead on the floor. I thought that was for the speaker. And the lady, the deaconess, at the end said that was for the plant next door. So there was water here. I hope that was not for the plant. It's a fake plant, so it should be good. 1999, I was 13 years old. And I can still remember the day I learned how to drive a car for the very first time. My uncle had his car up on the farm, and the farm is up in the mountain. And that one particular day, he went to work and left me and my cousin at home alone. Now, for those who grew up with a cousin, you know exactly where this story is going. So we looked at each other, we looked at the car, we looked at each other, and that was all the conversation we needed. My cousin's about 15 years old, 2 years older than me, and I was 13. He drove the car all the way through the mountain, all the way to the top, right on the top of the ridge. And the view was amazing. Like, I can still picture in my head the view from the top. The drive up was perfect, no problem, no issues. I was in the passenger seat, and I was like, we got this. This guy is good. Now, on the way back down, my cousin looked at me, and he says, hey, you should drive it. You should give it a go. Drive downhill. I was like, nah, I've never been behind the wheels. And he said, look, listen, it's easy. We're going downhill, put it on second gear, I'll do it for you. Manual car. Put it in second gear, I'll do it for you. And all you do is that middle pedal, that's the brake. You just touch it. If you feel like the car is going too fast, just touch it. And it will slow things down a little bit for you. I was like, really? And you know what? I was 13. And my cousin said it was easy. So what do? So I got behind the wheels, and I drove the car like I owned the mountain. Now, here's the thing. As we were coming down the hill, it was good. The second gear's handling the slope. It was awesome. And the car was going down. Everything was perfect. Now, I see a corner coming. And I am thinking the second gear is not slow enough to make that corner. So my brain sends a message to my left foot. Hit the brake. My left foot got the message, but just went to the wrong address. Instead of hitting the brake pedal, I hit the clutch. As soon as I hit the clutch, picture this, we're going downhill, it's right in the corner. As soon as I hit the clutch, the car just went faster than when we started from the top. It just went through, it was crazy. The car went through the trees. There were big trees. Now, not this big. There was big trees, and the car just knocked them like they were nothing. We were so scared. And I was trying to hold on to the wheels. The car is bumping around, and I knew this is how my story is finishing. 13 years old. And then the car stopped. We both looked up, and there's this one tiny tree right on the edge of the cliff, holding the car so that the car won't fall off the cliff. One tiny tree. That was all that stood between us and the bottom of that mountain, holding two boys who had absolutely no business being behind that wheel. I sat there, I was shaking. My cousin was just turning white. I've never seen a brown boy turning white before. And neither of us said a word for a very long time. We just sat there. Shaking. Because we knew in the bottom of our heart that we didn't survive this because of anything we tried to do. We survived it because something supernatural held us. Now, I thought about that moment a lot over the years, and I've come to realize that wasn't just a close call. That was pretty much the preview for the rest of my life. Because I have spent so much of my life behind the wheel I didn't know how to drive, thinking I had it all figured out, going too fast, missing the brake, heading straight for the edge. And God, over and over and over again, had been that tiny tree, holding me when I couldn't hold myself. And here's what I've learned. He's not just holding me, he's holding you too. So before I preach a word to you this morning, I want to tell you who I am. I want to tell you where I came from and why I'm standing here. Not my title, not my credentials, not my resume, but I want you to know my story. Well, parts of my story. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, I was born in a Seventh-day Adventist home. I grew up a Sevi. And if you know anything about SDA culture, you will agree with me when I say that I grew up knowing a lot. I knew the Sabbath, I knew the 28 fundamentals, I knew the health message. I had memory verses for every occasion. I knew when to stand, how to stand, depending where you are in the church. I knew when to sit. I knew how to sit. My mom would always kick me on sides like, that's not how you sit in church. I knew how to look spiritually engaged even when my mind is completely somewhere else. I was good at the routine. Really, really good. But here's the thing with routine. You can run a routine with your eyes closed. You can perform one your whole life and never actually go anywhere. And somewhere along the way, that's exactly what happened to me. I knew about God, but I did not know God. And on the inside, if I'm being completely honest with you, it felt like driving a car with an empty tank. The car looked fine from the outside, clean, together, going through all the right motion, but there was nothing actually powering it. I was cruising on habit, cruising on routine, and trying to meet everyone else's expectation. I was running out of road. Now, maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you're sitting right here today and you've been to church for your whole life and some things still feel hollow. Like the tank who had been empty for a long time. But we're too busy taking the time to sit down and check within ourselves. If that's you, I see you. I really do. Because that was me. Now, several years passed. Life kept moving. I kept going through the motion, still showing up, still serving, still looking fine from the outside. Then came a wake-up prayer. And I want to be honest with you, I wasn't there to receive anything from the wake-up prayer. I was there to serve. Welcoming team. I was part of the usher team. I was part of the photography team. I was part of the choir. I was doing lots of doing. I was trying to keep everything running so well so that everyone else could have a great experience. Every night that week, the preacher preached, and every single night, I was somewhere else, at the door, in the car park, in the kitchen, behind the camera. And honestly, I couldn't tell you what the preacher preached every single night. I don't remember anything. But then came the last night. Now, if you're a good Seventh-day Adventist, what night would that be? Last night of a wake-up prayer. Friday night. So Friday night, the preacher made his altar call. And this is what he said. I can still picture in my head. If I was to picture this whole room as being my experience, the cameraman, the AV guys, I was behind the screens there. That would be me. And from there, the preacher said this. This was his altar call. He said, "Are you still trying to save yourself?" I think he might have preached on Jesus trying to calm the storm, and you got the disciples trying to save themselves through the storm. And when he says, "Are you still trying to save yourself? Are you tired of trying? If you're tired of trying, come. Come." And something happened inside of my chest that I still don't have the words to explain it. My heart started pounding, heavy. It wasn't just anxiety. It wasn't just emotion. It was just pounding so much. The experience was much, much deeper. Like something inside of me was going to break down. But that particular time when he called, I felt the experience was allowing me to respond to the call. It was so strong that I feel like if I didn't move or responded to the call, I would have fainted. Or probably have a heart attack. I'm not exaggerating. I dropped my camera and I went. I walked through the aisle and then went right to where the preacher was. I was the first person to walk to the front. Me. The usher boy. The busy boy who was busy doing, didn't listen to anything the preacher preached that week. I'm moved. Now, how do you explain that? Don't know. Once everyone got to the front, the preacher prayed over all of us who responded to the call. And I felt a decision came upon me right at that time. And the decision was, Lord, you call, I'm moved, I'm going to follow you all the way through. Now, the only way I can explain the experience, it was almost like the disciples who were fishing on their boat before Jesus met them. Jesus came by the lake, saw the two disciples, and they called them. Matthew 4, verse 19, he says, "Come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people." They didn't ask for a plan. They didn't negotiate the terms. They left their nets and followed. Because when Jesus calls you, something in you, let me say that again. When Jesus calls you, something in you already knows the answer before your mind catches up. It also felt like John 6, verse 68, when Jesus asked his disciple whether they would leave, and Peter said, "Lord, where we're going, you have the words of eternal life." That was my heart that night. Where else will I go? This was the most real thing I had ever experienced in my life. And I was not going to walk away from it. I didn't find God that night. God found me. He found me in the middle of my serving, in the middle of my performing, and my going through the motions. He didn't wait for me to get my life together. He didn't wait for me to feel worthy. He simply came. John 6:44, "No one comes to me unless the Father who sent me draws them." I always read that passage, I'm like, yeah, I know people in my mind right now who needs to hear that verse. Well, now I know exactly which night it was written for. Now, that Friday night, I couldn't sleep. I was on my bed, reflecting on the experience that just happened. And I'm like, I want to talk to my parents. So I picked up the phone, and I called my mom and my dad, and I said, "Mom, Dad, something just happened tonight. God spoke to me, and I made a decision, and I responded to God, and this is the decision. I think I'm going to be a pastor." At the end of the line, it was quiet. But I can hear them talking. I'm like, what are they doing, praying or something? What's going on? I'm like, "Mom, Dad?" And then Mom replies quietly. She said, "Yeah, we know." I'm like, Wait, what? What do you mean you know? Did the pastor call or were you there? And then she said, "No, we know. You told us. You told us when you were 13 at an opening Sabbath on Friday, after your dad read a scripture and then we sing, and then your dad asked you and your siblings, What do you want to do when you grow up? And the 13-year-old version of myself said, without hesitation, that I want to be a pastor. Mom, she had told me this earlier. God works in amazing ways. "13 years old, the same age I was on that mountain, in that car. The same age God held me at the edge of a cliff with a tiny tree. I had completely forgotten. I still don't remember having saying that to my parents. I have no memory at all. But God remembers. And He did remember what I said that Friday night. And He had been marking this long before I was paying attention. Now, here's the part that still makes me laugh. At the time of that phone call that night, I was 19 years old, and I was finishing my last year of study in motor mechanics. I know, the boy who nearly drove a car off the cliff at the age of 13 was about to become a qualified motor mechanic at 19. I love cars, so for those who are passionate about cars, we can catch up. But that is exactly how God works. He doesn't wait for you to be in the right season. I love preaching about the different seasons of life, but God does what pleases Him. He doesn't wait for you to be enrolled in the right course. Love Avondale College, so go for it. But He calls you right in the middle of wherever you are. That's just how He works. And from that place, He changes everything and redirects everything. This calling was never my idea. It was placed in me long before I knew what a calling was. God had been setting this up for years, and it just happened I was the last person to find out. The same God who held a car at the edge of a cliff with a tiny tree had been quietly holding a calling inside a little boy, a young boy who didn't even remember making that call. God hears you. God knows you. What happened to me was not just luck. That was a God who is still holding you. Now, the gift of surrender is not a perfect life. I won't stand here and tell you my life has been perfect since that night. It hasn't. I still have hard days, and I'm still a person in process. But I can tell you one thing, and this is the most honest thing I can tell you, and that is, since that night, my life has had a direction. Not perfection, but a direction. Before I was cruising on empty tank, going through the motions, running out of road, after someone else took the wheel and the road started making sense. Life didn't get easier because I finally stopped fighting the one who actually knows the way. And life makes so much sense now. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Rely not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Church, that's the testimony that I bring to you today. That's part of my story. That's my story. not a finished man, not a man who had arrived, just a man who experienced firsthand what it means to be held by God when he couldn't hold himself. Not just on that mountain, but also on this mountain. And that same God, the one who held the cart off the cliff, who held a calling in a jar, who found me at an altar I wasn't planning to respond, he is still holding you. And that is the reason I'm standing here in front of you today. Now, I want to talk about us. I want to take a few minutes to talk about what I believe about this church. Not what I hope, not what I'm aiming for someday, but what I actually believe right now. Here's what I know is true. Every person in this room has a story. I'm looking at a library of stories. I love listening to stories. Stories are powerful. And most of those stories have a moment in them. A cliff edge, an empty tank, a night they couldn't sleep, where God showed up and held something they couldn't hold themselves. The problem is, most people never get to tell that story out loud. They carry it alone. They sit in a church every week and wonder if anyone else had ever felt what they felt. And they never find out. Why? Because nobody asks and nobody tells. I believe that needs to change. I believe this church is meant to be a place where your stories matters. Where the real version of your life, not the polished version, is exactly what God wants to work with. Because that's the church he established in the New Testament. And I'm here, I'm the new guy, and I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn about this community, and I can't wait to learn more about your journey, your story. I'm looking forward to that. But I know this much already. God didn't send me here to run a program. He sent me here to be part of a community, your story, our story. And I'm all in. I'm here with you and for you. And there's one thing I want to leave with us as we go about the rest of our afternoon and as we go into a new week. Just one thing, not a list, not a three-pointer, just one thing. And here it is. What if you stop trying to hold everything and let God hold you instead? Let's picture that. What would it look like if you stop trying to hold everything and let God hold you instead? What would that look like for you in your life? What would that sound like? And what would that feel like to have God hold you in the most secure hand and the most strongest grip? That's it. Just one thing. Not a commitment to be perfect, not a promise to have it all figured out, just one simple yet honest decision to stop pushing through your way through in life and to trust the one who had already proven he can hold you. And I'm asking that as a church, but also I'm asking that individually for each one of us. We all have our own experience, our own journey. God held a cart at the edge of a cliff with a tiny tree. He held a calling in a 13-year-old boy who didn't even remember making it. He held me at an altar on a night I wasn't even planning to respond. God is more capable of holding whatever you are carrying right now. So here's something that I would like to invite each one of us this week as part of our journey and our growth with God. This week, find a quiet moment, each one of us. Just you and God. I know it's really hard. It is really, really difficult. I know as a parent, we only got one child, so my hats to those who have more than one child. It is hard to find a quiet moment. But my challenge was for each one of us was just one thing. And I'll be praying for each one of us to find that one quiet moment and to talk to God. And this is what I want you to tell him. Lord, I'm tired of holding on. I need you. I trust you. Here I am. That's simple. That prayer doesn't require you to be ready. It doesn't require you to be perfect. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It just requires you to have one thing, to be willing to talk to him. Matt Maher, a worship leader, wrote this song. And the song says, Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour, I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. This is a song that most of us know. Let's sing it together. Lord, I need you. Lord, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You just responded to God's calling. And this is the place, this is the community, this is the family that we're building together. And it always starts with Christ at the center, along with each stories in this building. I'm going to ask our worship leaders to come forward as we go into our last song.